Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. We begin today's satsang with a prayer by Srimati Sapna Ganesh. This will be followed by the chanting of Muktaka trayam.
रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. Namo Ramana to everyone.
एकमक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथं हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रं ह्यहम् अहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता वा पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम् देहं मृण्मयवज्जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तदभावसुप्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्ट्वात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं. Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Upadesa Saram by Srimati Ashwini.
Namo Ramana. वायुरोदनात् लीयते मन जालपक्षिवद्रोदसादनम् चित्तवायवश्चित्क्रियायुताः शाकयोर्द्वयी शक्तिमूलक प्राणबन्धनात् लीनमानसम् एकचिन्तना नाशमेत्यधा नष्टमानसो उत्कृष्टयोगिना कृत्यमस्ति किं स्वस्तिथिं यथा दृश्यवारितं चित्तमात्मना चित्वदर्शनं तत्त्वदर्शनं मानसं तु किं मार्गणे कृते नैव मानसं मार्गार्जवात् वृत्तयस्त्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः वृत्तयो मनो विद्यहं मनः अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वथ ऐपतत्यहं निजविचारणम् अहमिनाशभाज्यहमहं तया स्फुरतिर्स्वयं परमपूर्णसत् नमो रमण
Namo Ramana. We will now have 3 songs from Ramananjali music. The first one will be presented by Srimati V. Radha. The second song will be presented by Dr. Pratibha Sundaresh. The third song will be presented by Revathi Sankar.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. This is again, I have chosen a song by Murugaya Pankajakshi Amma. அகத்தில் நினைக்க முக்தி அருளண்ணாமலை தனில் ஆத்ம ஜோதியாயமர் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அகத்தில் நினைக்க முக்தி அருளண்ணாமலை தனில் ஆத்ம ஜோதியாயமர் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அகச்சுடராய் நிறைந்தே அடியரகத் திருளையற்றும் கோட்டி கோட்டி பானுவாய் ஆட்கொண்ட அழகேஷா அகச்சுடராய் நிறைந்தே அடியரகத் திருளையற்றும் கோட்டி கோட்டி பானுவாய் ஆட்கொண்ட அழகேஷா என்னை ஆட்கொண்ட அழகேஷா அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அகத்தில் நினைக்க முக்தி அருளண்ணாமலை தனில் ஆத்ம ஜோதியாயமர் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா குவலயம் முயந்திட குருமூர்த்தின் தன்னிலே தவயோகராஜனாய் தவமே புரிந்தனை குவலயம் முயந்திட குருமூர்த்தம் தன்னிலே தவயோகராஜனாய் தவமே புரிந்தனை பவள குன்றிலமர்ந்தே பரமாத்ம தீபமாய் பவரோக நீக்கிட இப்பாரில் அவதரித்தாய் பவள குன்றிலமர்ந்தே பரமாத்ம தீபமாய் பவரோக நீக்கிட இப்பாரில் அவதரித்தாய் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அண்ணலே ரமணேஷா அகத்தில் அகத்தில் நினைக்க முக்தி அருளண்ணாமலை தனில் ஆத்ம ஜோதியாயமர் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ விண்ணவர் போற்றிடும் விருபாட்சி இல்லருள் தன்னருள் தந்திடும் தன்மயனாய் விண்ணவர் போற்றிடும் விருபாட்சி இல்லருள் தன்னருள் தந்திடும் தன்மயனாய் கண்ணெனும் காந்த வலையால் கவந்தே அண்ணல் ரமணனும் அருள் புரிந்தான் கண்ணெனும் காந்த வலையால் கவந்தே அண்ணல் ரமணனும் அருள் புரிந்தான் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ அகத்தில் நினைக்க முக்தி அருளண்ணாமலை தனில் ஆத்ம ஜோதியாயமர் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ அகத்தில் நினைக்க முக்தி அருளண்ணாமலை தனில் ஆத்ம ஜோதியாயமர் அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ அண்ணலே ரமணேஷ நமோ ரமண
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Namo Ramana to all. A Kannada translation by Lakshmi Narayana Bhatta. The music is by Upendra Kumar. ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮಸತ್ವವನೇ ಕಾಣುವರು ಶಿವರನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮಸತ್ವವನೇ ಕಾಣುವರು ಶಿವರನು ಆತ್ಮಬಲದ ಹಿರಿಸತ್ವದಿಂದಲೇ ಆತ್ಮಬಲದ ಹಿರಿಸತ್ವದಿಂದಲೇ ವಿಶ್ವವ ಗೆಲಿದವನು ರಮಣ ವಿಶ್ವವ ಗೆಲಿದವನು ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಶರಣಾದವರನ್ನು ಕಾಯುವ ಕೋಟೆಯು ಅವನ ಪಾದದ್ವಯವು ಶರಣಾದವರನ್ನು ಕಾಯುವ ಕೋಟೆಯು ಅವನ ಪಾದದ್ವಯವು ಆ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದದ ನೆರಳೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಆ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದದ ನೆರಳೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಸಲಹುವ ಆಸರೆಯೋ ರಮಣ ಸಲಹುವ ಆಸರೆಯೋ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. I am going to present a song written by Y.V. Venkateshwar Rao, Kannada translation by Vijay Bhaskar, R.N.J. Gopal, music by Vijay Bhaskar. Here the poet says, let us all praise Ramana who does not have any limitations like the sky. He is like, can't even say like the sky, he is beyond the sky. Let us praise that Ramana. Let us sing and dance his praise. And let us remember his great compassion, his abundant compassion, which is like, which is beyond the ocean. And let us dip into that ocean and get that happiness, that joy, that bliss which he is always in. He came onto this earth to just remove all the distress which is there to each and every one of his devotees, to remove all the dukkha which is pulled by us, which is chosen by us. We choose our dukkha, we choose our bondage, we choose to hold on to a thought. It is our duty to leave and let go of that thought and hold on to that compassionate one who has come on to this earth and who is like the Dakshinamurti. We need not listen to any words of Ramana. We need not listen to any life of Ramana. His silence is pervading all the time. We need not worry that I am not able to attend satsang. We need not worry that I am not able to do Parayanam. But got a chance. We need to attend satsang. We need to do our japa. We need to do our Parayanam. We need to do our self-enquiry. Holding on to that silence which is all the time there, everywhere. He is our mother, He is our father, He is our Sadguru, He is our God, He is our everything. He takes care of us as His own children. And He lives in that Samrajya of Arunachala where He is the king and brings all His devotees to Himself and takes care of each and every person in His kingdom, each and every atom in His kingdom, each and every plant, animal, bird, insect, every being He takes care of in His kingdom. And He is the Shanmukha who sits on Mother Parvati on the Himagiri. Let us praise this Lord, let us praise His song, let us sing and dance His song. A song written by Y.V. Venkateshwar Rao, Kannada translation, R.N.J. Gopal, Vijay Bhaskar's music. ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಅವನ ವಿಶಾಲ ಕರುಣೆಯ ಕಡಲಲಿ ಮುಳುಗಿ ಸುಖದಲ್ಲಿ ತೇಲೋಣ. ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಅವನ ವಿಶಾಲ ಕರುಣೆಯ ಕಡಲಲಿ ಮುಳುಗಿ ಸುಖದಲ್ಲಿ ತೇಲೋಣ. ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಧಾರಿಣಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತನ್ನಯ ಭಕ್ತರ ತಾಪವ ಈಗಿಸಲು, ದಾರಿಣಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತನ್ನಯ ಭಕ್ತರ ತಾಪವ ನೀಗಿಸಲು, ಪ್ರಭು ದಕ್ಷಿಣಾಮೂರ್ತಿ ತನ್ಮಯರಾಗಿ ವರಮಳೆ ಕರಗಿಸಲು, ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ತಾಯಿಯು ತಂದೆಯು ತನ್ ಸದ್ಗುರು ದೈವ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಅವನಲ್ಲವೇ, ತಾಯಿಯು ತಂದೆಯು ಸದ್ಗುರು ದೈವ ಸಕಲವು ಅವನಲ್ಲವೇ, ಎಳೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ನಮ್ಮನು ಮೂಲವಲಿ ಕಾಯುವ ದೀನ ರಕ್ಷಕನಲ್ಲವೇ, ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಆನಂದ ರಾಜ್ಯವ ಆಳುವ ಅರಸನು ಅವನೇ, ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಆನಂದ ರಾಜ್ಯವ ಆಳುವ ಅರಸನು ಅವನೇ, ಹಿಮಗಿರಿ ರಾಜಸುತೆ ಉಮೆಯ ಮಡಿಲಲಿ ಮೆರೆಯುವ ಷಣ್ಮುಖ ಅವನೇ, ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. ಅವನ ವಿಶಾಲ ಕರುಣೆಯ ಕಡಲಲಿ ಮುಳುಗಿ ಸುಖದಲ್ಲಿ ತೇಲೋಣ, ಬಾನಿಗೂ ಮೀರಿದ ಪ್ರಭುವು ರಮಣನ ಕೀರ್ತಿಯ ಹಾಡೋಣ. Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing by Sri Nandakumarji.
Namo Ramana. In this, the book reading segment of our satsang, we have commenced the reading from the collected works of Sri Ramana Maharshi. We read the narrative of how the preface came to be written by T.K. Sundaresh Iyer in our last satsang, and the key part there was that Sundaresh Iyer, in a spontaneous flow, had written the preface, and he had completed that with a fervent hope that people who read and meditate on the collected works will be benefited by abiding in the delight of the self. He hoped, he wrote, and Bhagavan corrected it to certainty, that it is certain that those who read and meditate on these works will find the bliss of the self. And we saw that Bhagavan's teaching is not a God of hope, a God that is to be attained or expected to support us in future, but is the Ullapurul. God is the ever-existing Adhara, which we initially find we have rediscovered like a Kantabharanam. Then not even that there was not a time when this purity had slipped and become non-self. Let's continue to read the actual preface itself, the collected works of Sri Ramana Maharshi. This is in appendix. T.K. Sundaresh Iyer's preface, translated from the Tamil original. We start reading the preface itself. This is Tiruvannamalai, the sacred place where Arunachala, the Swayambhu Linga, the self-created Linga of fire, shines. Arunachala, the center of the earth, attracts seekers who are rich in tapas and confers liberation on those who simply think of it. Ninaika Mukti. Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, who is of the form of Dakshinamurti and always abides in the self, graces this place in order to enable countless souls to attain liberation from samsara and reach the bliss of final beatitude. He confers grace from his state of supreme silence. His extraordinary compassion flows like a flood. This Ramana Nool Thirate, the collected works of Ramana Maharshi, is a golden work. It is nectar. It is his prasad to us. It is due to our good merit and luck that compositions of various types, prose, poetry, dialogue, and song, are available in this work. The learned and not so learned alike can, according to their levels of understanding, read it and be profited. So regarding the author and regarding who the reader is, the preface has covered. Arunachala, Bhagavan abiding in the self, and the Punyamurtis who are the disciples who are reading this work because of their good merit. We go into the description of the work itself. Shri Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, 5 hymns to Arunachala. The first part of this work was composed in the early days when Shri Bhagavan had just begun to speak, breaking Mauna. It is the flood of the self itself. Devotees should be delighted to go through the explanations on Bhakti and Jnana provided by Ramanamurti himself. So in Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, both Bhakti and Jnana are covered in Bhagavan's own inimitable style, says the preface writer. He is the supreme being and it comes from his heart. This revelation by him confirms his own verse in Aksharamanamalai that each one is reality itself. Thou wilt of thy nature show, O Arunachala, that each one is reality itself. Each one, the reader, is the reality itself. Thou wilt of thy nature show, Arunachala, Tane Tane Tattvam Idane Tane Katuvai Arunachala. That the self within us itself taken to the source is the truth. And remaining as that truth, Arunachala, Ramana, is going to absorb us, our relative existence, into that delightful self. Tane Tane Tattvam Tane Katuvai Arunachala. Reading Upadesa Saram, the second work of this compilation, Upadesa Undiyar, regarding Upadesa Saram, the second work of this compilation, Upadesa Undiyar, the essence of instruction, was written in response to the request of a devotee, Sri Muruganar. He had started composing Tiruvundiyar but wanted Bhagavan to guide him. Sri Bhagavan wrote the rest of the verses himself and thus completed his great work, Upadesa Undiyar. Ulladu Narpadu, 40 verses, and its supplement were written in response to the requests of the devotees from time to time. Of course, the compilation was primarily done at the request of Muruganar once again. Ekatma Panchakam, 5 verses on the self, was first composed in Telugu and subsequently translated by Sri Bhagavan himself into Tamil. Appalapattu, the song of the Appalam, especially composed by Sri Bhagavan when his mother Alagammal desired him to help in the preparation of Appalam, is a wonderful piece. When Muruganar composed the Pallavi and Anupallavi, the first and second parts of the song Anma Vidyai, self-knowledge, and could not proceed with the rest, he sought the help of Sri Bhagavan. Sri Bhagavan complied with his request and completed the Charanams, the third part. The whole song, that is the Anma Vidyai, Anma Vidya Kirtanam, the whole song is now very well known. This Upadesa Malai, original works, becomes sweeter and sweeter as you taste it, read it. The more Parayanam, the more Japam, the more Dhyanam we do it, including this kind of sharing. Each time we share it with others, whether the others are getting the communication through or not, it becomes a meditation for the speaker. So the seva of reading, sharing, or speaking about the Upadesa Malai, either independently or collectively, that benefits the reader the utmost and assuredly, because it is first a meditation for the person who is sharing. The communication with the other is now fraught with many other intervening factors, and with Bhagavan's grace that also will be complete. But that it is Bhagavan's grace that one is allowed to share this thing can be easily found out in experience itself by the people who have this privilege or this great punyam of trying to speak on Bhagavan's teachings. The Upadesa Malai original works becomes sweeter and sweeter. As you taste it, read it. The more one reads, the more and more one gets enlightened. Devotees will learn this through experience. This is 100% the experience of each of the devotees. After this feast of knowledge, we have the divine words of Shiva and Krishna translated by Sri Bhagavan himself. Thus we have the Devi Kalotram, Jnana Achara Vichara Padalam, taught by Shiva to Parvati, Sarvajnanotram, Anma Sakshatkara Prakaranam, taught by Shiva to Kumara, and the Bhagavad Gita Saram, the essence of the Gita, taught by Lord Krishna. Translations from the original Sanskrit of Sri Shankaracharya of the Dakshinamurti Stotram, hymn to Dakshinamurti, Atma Bodha, knowledge of the self, as well as Guru Stuti and Hastamalaka Stotram, composed by his disciples, form the third part. The fourth part consists of translations in prose of Sri Shankaracharya's Viveka Chudamani and Drigdrishya Vivekam. At the end comes the Arulmozhi Toguppu. This has been moved to the front in the modern editions. At least in the current edition I am having, we see the prose works at the first, in the beginning. At the end comes the Arulmozhi Toguppu, words of grace consisting of the three works, Nanyar, Who Am I, Vichara Sangraham, and Upadesa Manjari, spiritual instructions. Nanyar consists of instructions received from Sri Bhagavan by Sri Shivaprakasham Pillai and compiled by him. Although short, this work captivates the heart in a wonderful manner. Vichara Sangraham, self-enquiry, these instructions were given by Sri Bhagavan in writing in response to the queries of Gambiram Seshayar. Sri Bhagavan was not in the habit of speaking at that time. The speciality of this work is that Sri Bhagavan has given instructions on paths like karma, bhakti, etc. This was unusual since he mainly taught the method of self-enquiry. The contingent reason for giving instruction on other paths was that the questioner himself, that is Gambiram Seshayar, was following these paths. Upadesa Manjari, the final prose work, is a compilation of Sri Bhagavan's sayings by Sadhu Natanananda. It is certain, this is where he had written as, it is hoped. He had said that it is hoped that this work he had written, Bhagavan changes it to Tindam. It is certain that by the power of the nectarine words of Sri Bhagavan, nectarine because it is going to definitely put aside all sorrow and bring in the bliss of the self. It is certain that by the power of the nectarine words of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi contained in this work, faith in the Lord will increase and struggling souls will be able to free themselves from all kinds of misery and attain the supreme bliss of final beatitude. Let us read the last paragraph once again. It is certain that by the power of the nectarine words of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi contained in this work, faith in the Lord will increase, struggling souls will be able to free themselves from all kinds of misery and attain the supreme bliss of final beatitude. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. Namo.
Namo Ramana. We will now have sharing of thoughts on the topic self-enquiry, and we will also have a session of self-enquiry which will be led by Sri Dileep Simha.
Namo Ramana. Dhyayet Sharada Chandra Sundaramukam Tamraravindekshana Bhaktabhishtavarabhaya Pradakaram Kaupinamatrojvalam Svatmanandarsanubhuti vivasham Sarvanavadyangakam Srimantam Sri Ramaneshwaram Guruvaram Yogasanadhyasitam Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram Yahamahamiti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhati हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामज्जतव पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्. Ramana, we will commence the Atma Vicharam by first listening and meditating on Bhagavan's Upadesham. I will be reading his Upadesham today from the book Guru Vachipovai, from the chapter Meditation on the Truth. The topic is feeling compassion for living beings. Verse 811. If the strong persecute the weak through their great might, the wise should realize that God, who tirelessly takes pity on the weak, will judge those acts of oppression and mete out appropriate punishment. It is the duty, therefore, of the wise to act with compassion towards the oppressed. I repeat, if the strong persecute the weak through their great might, the wise should realize that God, who tirelessly takes pity on the weak, will judge those acts of oppression and mete out appropriate punishment. It is the duty of the wise to act with compassion towards the oppressed. So here, Bhagavan is saying that whatever we may perceive in this world of oppressions or people who cannot defend themselves, whom we may call them as weak, and it is not necessarily in strength, in physical strength. When we come to this strong and weak, the skills in which we can have strength, and we may have a lot of strength in one area, we may be completely weak in another strength area. So we don't know. Wherever we are weak, we could be oppressed by somebody who's strong in that area. And we may be strong in some other area, but because we are weak in a particular area, we may get oppressed. But often, if a person who is very strong in one area get oppressed by another in another area, will feel that he has to increase his strength in that other area too, and spend a lot of time trying to learn that new area and try to correct himself or herself. But Bhagavan is saying, a wise person would not do that. A wise person knows that whatever Ishvara has given, whether it is strength in some area or weakness in some area, but it is all evens out by his, because he is the most compassionate one. So if I am weak in a certain area, I get oppressed by somebody who is strong in that very area, I need not plan out something to strengthen myself or to take revenge, to do anything. We have to simply, if we are wise, we simply have to recognize that God's compassion is always towards the weak, and therefore the one who has oppressed will be appropriately taken care of. And therefore the wise thing to do would not be to again lament about one's weakness or try to prepare oneself or to make oneself strong, but to surrender to the will of the Supreme, who has, for some reason, made me weak in a certain area. So he knows it well. So to surrender to it, and moreover, he takes care of such a weak one. We know this beautiful incident, how the Arjuna and Duryodhana, when they went to ask for Krishna's help in the war, and Duryodhana thought that, sitting on near the head of the Paramatma is the display of strength. To ask for the war, the entire army, Narayana Sena, is really the strength. But when Krishna said, I am not going to fight this war, I am going to be not even lifting a weapon this entire war, whether you want me or you want the entire Narayani Sena, the wise that Arjuna was, though Duryodhana might have seen it as weakness, Arjuna knew to be with God is more than enough for everything. All will fall in place. Or Bhagavan would say, if you are with the divine, everything else will be added onto you. So it is important for us in our day-to-day life when if we get carried away by such thoughts. In fact, Bhagavan says, no matter what thoughts they are all nothing but a sort of oppression on the self, because the self is naturally available. It's veiling the presence of the self and trying to dominate itself as real. Therefore, the best course is to not to punish it, not to do anything with it. To inquire, to whom is this? For me, then who am I? That is the ultimate enquiry. What do I refer to as I? And when we do that, we knowingly or unknowingly initially start surrendering to the truth, which is what is rising as I at all times. So when we surrender to that, all the thoughts, all the purpose of those thoughts, all will be taken care by that Supreme. And the more and more we practice getting back to the self, the more and more we become wise in recognizing that everything is properly taken care of. There is nothing much for one to do anything externally. Let the body and the mind act out as it is to be acting out, and one can steadily remain in the truth that one verily is here and now. The enquiry brings about this clarity. Tane, as Nandakumarji said, Tane Tattvam. That is what Arunachala will reveal. And that's why the enquiry, to whom is this thought, who am I, is the most direct path to recognize the truth which is readily here available, not somewhere down the line, not after something. The very enquiry, who am I, takes us to the truth, makes us get back. This is certain, says Bhagavan. And when we may not recognize it because of various wrong notions of what the truth is, but certainly in due course of time, as Bhagavan says, one will recognize that the truth is naturally given not to only the one who inquires, but it is the very nature of everybody. And therefore, the Atma Vichara that Bhagavan has given is the most direct path to get back to the truth which is readily available. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us practice Atma Vichara the next 10 minutes. In self-enquiry, no matter how many thoughts come, no matter what is the nature of those thoughts, whether they are good thoughts, bad thoughts, ugly thoughts, or even a spiritual thought, it is an object. It is taking the attention away from the truth, because if that thought were to be truth, it should have been at all times. It is something which is appearing and disappearing. Therefore, to inquire to whom is this, who am I, is a way to move the attention away from that which is ephemeral to that which is the reality. And the inquiry, who am I, as I said, even done with intellect or without a seeking, will take us back to the self. That is the grace of the word of Bhagavan. It will take us certainly to the self here and now. We may recognize it or we may not recognize it, but with repeated practice, the clarity starts to dawn. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us practice Atma Vichara the next 10 minutes. Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Atma Bodham by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande sir.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurudevo Ishvaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti Puja Mulam Gurur Padam Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha. Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha. Ramana. We did Manana Atma Bodha, and the last satsang we did Manana on the verse number 65. We'll do a recap of that. The eye of wisdom sees the all-pervading Atman as existence consciousness. The eye of ignorance does not see it as the blind do not see the resplendent sun. Brahman is all-pervading. The universe itself is nothing but the Brahman. Brahman alone exists and nothing else. The enlightened one has the eye of wisdom, jnana chakshu, to recognize the one supreme Brahman. But those who lack this intuitive vision see the pluralistic world. The knowledge of the world or of any object can arise only when an object exists and the knower is conscious of his existence. The two aspects of knowledge, namely existence and consciousness, are gross expressions of the Supreme Brahman. The eye of wisdom has the capacity to penetrate through these gross expressions and perceive Brahman alone in this world. Those who do not make use of this head and heart, thus are steeped in ignorance. To them, the vision of truth is obscured. Truth exists everywhere, at all times. The ignorant do not behold it because they lack the instrument of perception. The jnana chakshu, denying the omnipresent reality, is like the blind declaring that there is no sun in the midday. The sun is ever shining with its bright and brilliant light, but the blind man has no eyes to see its resplendence and glory. The metaphor therefore suggests that you should develop your mind and intellect equipment to enable you to realize the Dhamma. Today we do Manana on verse number 66. I request Sapna to kindly chant the verse, please. Sapna there?
Namo Ramana sir. Yes, I am here. श्रवणादिभिरुद्धीप्ता ज्ञानाग्निपरितापितः जीवः सर्वमलान्मुक्तः स्वर्णवध्योतते स्वयं श्रवणादिभिरुद्धीता ज्ञानाग्निपरितापितः जीवः सर्वमलान्मुक्तः स्वर्णवद्योतते स्वयम्. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. The individual heated in the fire of knowledge, kindled by hearing itself, is freed from all the impurities and shines by itself like gold. The self in you is obscured by your impurities. The impurities are your vasanas. Vasanas constitute the ignorance of self, avidya. When the ignorance is removed, the pure self shines forth. The process of removing ignorance and gaining the knowledge of the self is by hearing, etc. The threefold technique of self-unfoldment is laid down in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, namely Shravana, listening to the scriptural truth, Manana, reflecting upon its significance, and in Nididhyasana, contemplating and meditating upon it. The ignorance of mankind operates in three distinct ways. You first express your ignorance of the self as, I do not know, I don't know. This phase of ignorance is removed by Shravana, listening other directly from spiritual masters or indirectly through the scriptural books. The second phase of ignorance is your inability to comprehend what you hear. You say, I can't understand. Intellectual analysis and reflection, manana, helps you to overcome this phase of ignorance. Having intellectually understood what you have heard, you still feel an incompleteness in your knowledge of truth, which you express as, I have no experience of truth. Meditation, nididhyasana, is the means of removing this last phase of ignorance and realizing the pure self within. The simile of extraction of gold suggests a reference to the threefold process of realizing the self. The gold ore dug from a mine contains traces of gold mixed with a lot of extraneous matter. The ore is first ground, sieved, and gold separated from the impurities. It is then smelted. The molten gold extracted is cooled and obtained to obtain the pure brilliant metal. Like the gold in the ore, the divinity in you is hardly seen in your material composition. After you are drawn out from the depth of material entanglements, your gross intellect is made subtle by educating it with the logic and reason contained in the scriptures. You then begin to realize the existence of a changeless reality beyond the changing phenomena of the world. The reality is further distinguished and separated from the unreal by the process of reflection. By constant reflection, you gain a thorough understanding of the eternal reality. When the understanding deepens, you become more introvert and contemplative. You are then fit for intense meditation and realization of the supreme reality. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Thank you.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Aksharamanamalai by Srimati V. Radha.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Thedaduttanal Tiruvarunidiyahatiakam Keetarunarunachala. ധൈര്യമോടുമുന്മേയഹനാടയന്തട്ട அழிந்தேன் அருணருணாச்சலம் தொட்டருட்கைமை கட்டிடாயனிலிய நட்டமாவேன் அருணருணாச்சலம் தோடமில் நீயகத்தோடொன்று என்றும் சந்தோடம் ஒன்றிட அருணருணாச்சலம் நகைக்கிடவில்லை நின் நாடிய எனையருள் நகையிட்டு பாரி அருணாச்சலம் நாடிலை நாடிட நானாயொன்றினி தாணுவ நின்றனை அருணாச்சலம் நின்னெறி எரித்தென்னை நீராக்கிடும் முன் நின்னருள் மழை பொழி அருணாச்சலம் நீனானரபுரி நிதங்கடி மயமா நின்றிட நிலையருள் அருணாச்சலம் நுண்ணுரு உன்னையான் விண்ணுரு நன்னிட எண்ணலையிருமென்னருணாச்சலா நூலறிவறியா பேதையன் எந்தன் மாலறிவரத்தருளருணாச்சலாம் நெக்கு நெக்குருகியான் புக்கிட உன்னை புகழ் நெக்க நான் நின்றனை அருணாச்சலாம் நேசமில் எனக்கு உன் ஆசையை காட்டி நீ மோசம் செய்யாத அருணருணாச்சலம் அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா 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 அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமணமாலை வாழி நமோ ரமணா.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the Ashtottara puja to Bhagavan. The Ashtottara puja will be performed by Sri Dileep Simha at his altar, and the Ashtottaram will be chanted by Vaibhavji and Prarthana. We conclude today's satsang with the Arati to Bhagavan, which will be sung by Sri Dr. Pratibha Sundaresh. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्री रमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारि राशे यस्योनिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महौषेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः Om Udasinaya Namaha. Om Mahayogine Namaha. Om Mahotsahaya Namaha. Om Kushagradiye Namaha. Om Shanta Sankalpa Samrambhaya Namaha. Om Susandrashe Namaha. Om Savitre Namaha. Om Sthiraya Namaha. Om Tapakshapita Sarvangaya Namaha. Om Bhullambhuja Vilochanaya Namaha. Om Chandrika Sitaha Shashri Manditanana Mandalaya Namaha. Om Chutavatyam Samasinaya Namaha. Om Churnikakhila Vibramaya Namaha. Om Veda Vedanta Tattvajnaya Namaha. Om Chinmudrine Namaha. Om Trigunatigaya Namaha. Om Virupaksha Guhavasaya Namaha. Om Virajadatalakృతये Namaha. Om Uddittanayanaaya Namaha. Purnaya Namaha. Om Rachitachala Tandavaya Namaha. Om Gambhiraya Namaha. Om Paramacharya Namaha. Om Suprasannaya Namaha. Om Abhayapradaya Namaha. Om Dakshinasya Nibhaya Namaha. Om Dhiraya Namaha. Om Dakshinabhimukhaya Namaha. Om Swaraje Namaha. Om Mahashaye Namaha. Om Bhagavate Namaha. Om Idyaya Namaha. Om Vidya Visharadaya Namaha. Om Vimalaya Namaha. Om Dirghadashine Namaha. Om Aptaya Namaha. Om Rujumarga Pradarshakaya Namaha. Om Samadrushe Namaha. Om Satyadrushe Namaha. Om Satyaya Namaha. Om Prashantaya Namaha. Om Amitavikramaya Namaha. Om Sukumaraya Namaha. Om Sadanandaya Namaha. Om Pratubhashine Namaha. Om Dayarnavaya Namaha. Om Sri Shurnachala Skandashramaniketanaya Namaha. Om Satashramapadeshre Namaha. Om Sadbhaktavinda Parivritaya Namaha. Om Ganesh Munilingena Sevitangri Saroruhaya Namaha. Gitopadesha Saradhiganta Sanchinna Samshayaya Namaha. Om Varnashramamatatitaya Namaha. Om Rasadhyaya Namaha. Om Saumyaya Namaha. Om Atmavate Namaha. Om Sarvavanimatasthanam Aradhyaya Namaha. Om Sarvasadgurine Namaha. Om Atma Ramaya Namaha. Mahabharaya Namaha. Om Matramukti Vidhayakaya Namaha. Om Vinataya Namaha. Om Vinutaya Namaha. Om Vikraya Namaha. Om Mudindraya Namaha. Om Pavakojvalaya Namaha. Om Dakshinataka Samharine Namaha. Om Maunena Swatmabodhakaya Namaha. Om Chanting Sanidhyaya Namaha. Om Smaranatandamochakaya Namaha. Om Antasthivirachandamshave Namaha. Om Samsararnavatarakaye Namaha. Om Shurnadishastitidrashte Namaha. Om Vidyaprakashakaye Namaha. Om Avichutanijaprajnaye Namaha. Om Naisargikamahatapaté Namaha. Om Kamandaludharaye Namaha. Om Shudrakauplinavasanaye Namaha. Om Guhaya Namaha. Om Dandapanaye Namaha. Om Kripapurnaya Namaha. Om Bhavarogabhishagvaraye Namaha. Om Skandaya Namaha. Om Devatamaya Namaha. Om Amartyaya Namaha. Om Senane Namaha. Om Purushottamaya Namaha. Sri Ramana Bhagavate Namaha. Sri Ramanashtottara Shatanama Pujam Samarpayami. Yasthano Arunachalasya Padayo Srityajani Prapyata Divyanugraha Supravaha Vivasha Sthadatma Bhavangataha Nishta Swagavira Nityatapata Lokan Punase Karat Tasmai Shri Ramanaya Te Namatam Lokottara Jyotishe Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
नमो नमो रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीव हित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगीये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिव नंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತೇ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆ ಬಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಗಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರ್ಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय।
नमो रमण